A lot of people talk about Israel being an apartheid state, and Alan B. West was confronted on this by a man in the audience saying that Israel is an apartheid state. How can you support them? And he gives this man a quick education. Check it out.
Sir, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Your speech was really good. Now, I want to ask you two questions. I recently read a book. It's called the Palestinian Laboratory, and also Khalid Mohammadi's book, 100 Years in Palestine. And I'm not against what you're saying, whatever you said makes so much sense. And like you, I also like Trump, because if you have an accent, they think that you hate Trump. It's not like that.
Same thing. They think you black, you only.
So the picture you gave is very right. What Hamas did was totally wrong. I, being a Muslim, I want to ask one question to the media and influential people like you. They always use Islamic terrorism, radical Islam. So when Prophet Muhammad came, he told his followers that when I will die, there'll be offshoots of Islam, and all of them are wrong. And in Quran, he mentioned if you kill one person, as if you killed the whole humanity.
Sure.
Hold on. This is about Islam. He gets into the Israeli apartheid towards the end. But, okay, so it's about Islam and Israeli apartheid.
So why using Islamic terrorism? For example, the IRA, the Irish Republic Army.
Terrorist organization?
Yes. They never call them, terrorist IRA. They just say IRA. They were also Catholics. So why is this? It's boggling. Like you, I'm a learner too. It boggles me that why always everybody is asking. Richard Haas of Foreign Affairs, he wrote a book, The World in Disarray. And he mentioned this fact. I'll just finish, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to meet you. So he also mentioned in that this concept of using a religion by media is to favor one side. So that is what and I'm a computer science graduate student here. So
well, no, I think that, I'm a student of Sun Tzu. And I believe that you take your enemy for their word. And so therefore, when I look at someone like Osama bin Laden, or I look at some of the other, like I said, the Muslim Brotherhood and some of the things that they were espousing, they go back to verses out of the Quran also. And so I think it's important that we break down and we study and understand the Quran. I've done this a little bit. There's the initial Mecca phase that was from about 610 to 622. And then Muhammad, after he was quote unquote, mocked because people asked him, he said he had gone on a night ride to Jerusalem, and they asked him, well, what did Jerusalem look like? He couldn't really explain it, so they mocked him. Then all of a sudden he left Mecca and went to Medina. And of course, when you look at the Medina phase on in the Quran, the Quranic verses kind of change. There's a lot of those peace-loving verses that really replicate a lot of things that you see in the Bible and also in the Torah early on. But there is a term in Arabic called nakish, which I'm sure you know. It means abrogation. And what ends up happening is that, some people will go and say, yeah, you got all these verses in the Quran, but the later verses in the Quran supersede the earlier verses. And so all of a sudden you will have someone like Osama bin Laden that will write a letter to the United States of America, much the same as Muhammad wrote a letter to Emperor Heraclius of the Eastern Roman Empire saying that you must convert, subjugate, or we will attack you. And that becomes part of the traditions of people going forward. So I will tell you what needs to happen in the Muslim world of those 57 Islamic nations, there has to be a reform. There has to be a condemnation of people that are taking verses out of your Quran and reworking them for the justification of their violence. Same thing what ISIS did, justifying the murder of and enslavement of young women. And one of the things I'm concerned about when you look at this Syria issue is the president of Turkey being behind it. Because Erdogan is not a good guy. And Erdogan wants to reestablish that quote unquote type of Ottoman Empire under an Islamic type of caliphate, which people always talk about. When Kemal Ataturk, after World War I, he wanted Turkey to be what? A secular Muslim nation. So I think that it's so important for us in the West to study, to read, to understand, so that we don't fall into the trap of saying it is not all Muslims. But without a doubt, there are people that are taking the Quran and they're using those later verses in the Quran. And let's be very honest, Muhammad led some 65 to 72 combat operations. We've got to admit that. And so there are some people that are going out and they're following that path instead of following the path that you're talking about. And I have some very dear Muslim friends. As a matter of fact, in Afghanistan, I worked hard to get 2 of my interpreter translators here to the United States of America. And they're thriving here. They love it. Their families love it. One of them used to be a University of Georgia Bulldogs fan, okay? But then he got stupid and moved out here to California. I don't know why. But I think we got to work together. And we've got to eradicate and eliminate those dangerous elements. Just the same as the Ku Klux Klan once upon a time would take verses out of the Bible. But people came together to crush their, you know what, I can't say it because we're in mixed company, but came together to crush them. That's what we have to do together.
Thank you so much. One short question, because I won't be able to.
Man, you're taxing my intelligence here. I was a paratrooper. I didn't fly airplane. I just jumped out of them. You know?
So what is your understanding, and what do you think about Tahani Nicote's recent book in which he mentioned that Israel has made Palestine into a apartheid state like in South Africa?
I don't see how that's possible. I mean, no one is treating, look, there are people, as a matter of fact, there were people that were involved in that October the 7th raid that worked in Israel. They opened up their gates to allow people to have an economic opportunity. That wasn't the case in apartheid South Africa. There are people that come out of the West Bank and go into Israel for hospital treatments. That was not the case in South Africa. Again, that is the irrational emotionalism. That is the propagandized talking point that makes people believe that there is something going on, you know, this whole racism thing. Look, Israel is an incredible multicultural community. There are Ethiopian Jews. There are Yemeni Jews. There's all different types of people there in Israel. So it is not an apartheid state.
Well done, Alan B. West. Great job there, not only educating him, but also not doing it in such a manner in which, he has a problem against Alan. And the guy was very respectful. He was asking the questions with an actual wanting to hear the answers, not looking to get him, not looking to catch him, and just trying to learn. For more, subscribe to the channel. If you want to help us make more of these videos, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored. You can also go to our channel memberships page and join from there for some exclusive content. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.